Maybe.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. It's simple. Winners and losers of the NFL Draft. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. Welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Football Show presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution and find your new favorite flavor at righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15, STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Doing good. Boy, it was an exciting draft. Be fun to talk about it. That was a great weekend.
It was a lot of fun. And, of course, Green Bay hosted this year. And on day one, they almost doubled the population of the city. They had 205,000 on night one of the draft. The population of Green Bay is 104,000. So lots of people in Green Bay over the weekend. And definitely a good time as well. Dad, you being a minority owner of the Green Bay Packers, anything exciting come your way this week?
Yeah, well, I was waiting for Goody to send me my picture of the board, and he must have got lost in the email. But no, it was exciting for the city of Green Bay. I think in the state of Wisconsin, it really came off well. They were able to highlight things about Green Bay and the area up there. And as you read different comments, I mean, a lot of people just wanted to see Lambeau Field. I read where somebody said, hey, the draft, it had its pluses and minuses, but I've always had a dream to see Lambeau Field, and I got to go in there and do that. Again, they had great weather on Saturday, and that's when they had a lot of the activity. Well, they had some of the activities on Friday afternoon too, things in town and booyah contests and Kringle contests and all that type of stuff. But a great day on Saturday, the biggest crowd of the whole time, and great weather. It came off, I think, better than anyone even up there expected it to. So.
For sure. All right. So today we're talking winners and losers. And I'll be honest with you, Dad. I went through, during the draft, I gave grades after the first round, put those up on bellyupsports.com. I'm currently working on an article with more grade type things in there as well. But the reality is I thought most teams had a good draft this weekend. There are very few teams that I look at and go, man, that didn't help them whatsoever. And so I think overall there were a lot of decent drafts, good drafts, a couple questionable drafts. And so I want us to start on that side of things, on the losers of the NFL draft this weekend. So a lot of times when you're looking at this, it's like, well, the first 2 days and you kind of know those names a little bit and whatnot from there. So I'm curious to kind of even get your reasoning behind your decisions on some of these as well. But I only had one team, Dad, that I thought missed the mark. And I thought it was a crucial year for them to not miss the mark. And yet here they sit. And that was the Detroit Lions. I sat there and looked at the Lions and I thought, okay, they lost both of their coordinators. There's in my opinion, there's a massive question mark on the Lions this year with Ben Johnson gone, even carrying over the same system. Will the Lions be as efficient and as effective on offense? And then defensively with Aaron Glenn gone, it's, to me, those two voices were important. So I thought they need to get playmakers into the building in this draft. And Dad, I just didn't feel like they did that this year. And I'll start off with Tyleik Williams, the Ohio State defensive tackle. This is a guy, again, none of these players, by the way, I want to make sure this is clear. I'm not saying any of these players are bad. I'm not saying that I could do better or anything like that. These are NFL caliber players, and it is what it is. But Tyleik Williams at 28 overall, I thought was really high for him. Tate Ratledge with Georgia in the second round. Again, not a bad pick, but questionable on where they drafted him at. Isaac Tesla, the receiver out of Arkansas, I just felt like you could wait another round on. Miles Frazier, a guard from LSU. Ahmad Hassanin from Boise State, the edge. Dan Jackson, the safety, and Dominic Lovett, the wide receiver from Georgia. To me, Dad, Detroit did not give themselves playmakers. The top of the draft with Williams, he may turn out to be good and solid and a starter for many years, and hopefully so for his sake. Tate Ratledge maybe works out. Miles Frazier maybe works out. He's a 5th round pick, so we'll see. But I just was not impressed with what Detroit did on day one or the rest of the draft.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like you said, you don't know how these players are going to turn out, but they were one of them that you looked at, and I just kind of put a question mark by it. Did they help themselves? Were there, we can all be experts and speculate were there better players available when they drafted. And again, all personnel departments do a lot of research, but yeah, I would agree. I'm not sure Detroit helped themselves a lot. I had 2 teams, and it wasn't the same kind of players that I had question marks by as I looked at their people. Are these guys really good enough? And the other one was the Rams. It's kind of the same way. Did they get the best players they could? Maybe they were filling certain needs, and that's what they needed to do. But I'm not sure that Detroit probably didn't help themselves.
Yeah, so with the Rams, I have them as a C, as a mediocre team in the draft. Terrence Ferguson, I thought was a good pick. They traded out of the first round to gather some extra picks. They get a first round pick next year, which I thought was a positive. So I give them a little bit of a positive notch because of that. I do think Terrence Ferguson is good. I think at tight end, he provides something special there in LA and can be good. So I thought he was good. Josiah Stewart, the edge rusher. I'm just not, it doesn't jump out at me. Jacquez Hunter, Ty Hamilton, running back, defensive tackle, didn't jump out at me. Chris Paul from Ole Miss, the linebacker, I think a good pick at 5, in the 5th round, excuse me. And then Mumfield, I know nothing about him in the 7th round. So I feel like the Rams, because they got some positive draft capital in their trade, and they got what will be their starting tight end in the 2nd round, I gave them a C grade, but I admit I almost gave them a C minus. And I held on with a C with the Rams. So I agree with you, Dad. I'm not impressed by the Rams. The other teams that I felt fell into place here, slightly better than the Rams, but not much better than the Rams, were the Bengals, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Eagles. I say that to say this, Dad. I don't want to go through each of their drafts, but were either any of those teams, I'll say them again, Bengals, Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, Eagles, those are all mediocre teams to me in the draft. Were there any of those that you thought, no, those aren't mediocre, those are above average or even better?
No, I didn't have any of those any higher than that. So okay. I think that, is there. The Bengals definitely, I think, would fall into that category. From there, the Eagles might have been a little better now. I mean, they've already got so many good players. So you look at a team like them and, kind of what do you need? But,
well,
we'll see about that.
Yeah, and you got to remember they retired some guys and lost some guys in free agency. So they're a good team, don't get me wrong, but they needed more, I think, than I don't hate any of these drafts. These teams that I just mentioned, I don't hate their drafts. They all had at least one solid good player picked in this draft. But I just thought as a whole, it didn't woo me off my feet with these picks as well. I'm going to come back and talk about some of these teams, maybe these other teams that I have as mediocre after we talk about winners, and I see where you line up with some of these things too. So, Dad, I had 3 teams with A+ grades in this draft that I thought just knocked the draft out of the park. And my three teams are the Atlanta Falcons, the Cleveland Browns, and the New England Patriots. Did you have any of those three teams as winners in your mind?
I had the Patriots. Definitely. I think they restocked. They needed a lot of players. And so, yes, I think they did. I think I can see where you're coming from on Atlanta. They got two really good edge rushers at the start. I'm not sure about the rest of it. I don't know that I would give them an A+, but
okay. Well, let's talk there. Let's start with New England because we both had New England as winners in this draft. Will Campbell goes at number 4, best left tackle in the draft. There's so much tape. I mentioned this on my recap show after night 1. There's so much tape on Will Campbell. We know who he is. We've seen his success. There's no reason to question it. So they get him at 1. That's a win. Travion Henderson in the second round, a solid running back. I don't think that the other running backs on this team are better than Travion Henderson. So Ramondre Stevenson, he has his value, but I think Henderson comes in day 1, massive impact for this team. Kyle Williams, the wide receiver out of Washington State, is fine. But Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, I really like that pick at the end of round 3. Josh Farmer, a 4th-round defensive tackle from Florida State. I like that pick. I think he will play a lot this year. And Brady Swinson, the edge rusher out of LSU, I wanted the Packers to take him in round 3. He goes in round 5 to the Patriots, and I think he's going to give an instant impact as well here for the Patriots. The other ones, I don't know enough about some of these guys. They did get a kicker in round 6. He was good in college, so we'll see how he does in the pros, right? But to me, it was Will Campbell, Travion Henderson, Jared Wilson, Josh Farmer, and Braden Swinson that put New England over the top for me.
Yeah, I would agree. And like I said, I thought they had several good players. And like I said, they needed a lot of players. And the people that they got there at the top, the ones you mentioned, are all people I had, seen as far as we were studying for the draft. So it felt like, anytime you get an offensive lineman from Georgia, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape there. And it seems like they needed to stock the cupboard. And I think it was not just bodies. I think they got some good people. That Washington State wide receiver, I read a lot about wide receivers because of the Packers, and his name came up. So, yeah, I think they did real well.
All right, let's talk about Atlanta next. We'll get to your winners in a minute. I thought Atlanta knocked every single pick out of the park. Jalen Walker falling to them at 15 is nuts. And I think that the maybe 12 of the other teams that passed on Jalen Walker are going to look back at this and go, man, we should have never done that. I said, earlier in this draft process, I felt like the gap between Abdul Carter and Jalen Walker was very slim. And I think Walker has more Micah Parsons in him than Abdul Carter does. Then we knew they were targeting James Pierce. All the rage was at 15. It was either going to be James Pierce or Walter Nolan, but then Jalen Walker fell. So then we come up here at 26. They trade up with the Rams. They do pay a hefty price for it, but they get James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, another edge rusher. Then in the 3rd round, they end up with Xavier Watts, the safety out of Notre Dame, who will probably start for them this year. In the 4th round, they secured more help in the defensive backfield with Billy Bowman Jr. Dad, Coach McGuire, would be happy with this pick. The Oklahoma Sooner there, a solid safety. He'll be influential on special teams and get time at safety. And then Jack Nelson, he's an underrated tackle out of Wisconsin because, Wisconsin hasn't played up to the Wisconsin level we expect in the last couple of years. But Jack Nelson will, I believe, not only make the team, I think by next year he'll be playing for Atlanta as well. So I thought every pick was a home run for Atlanta, and I'm really impressed with their draft. What was it about them that maybe sent you off of not giving them that top level a draft?
Well, and maybe this isn't fair, but part of it was that, they only had 5 picks. Sure. So I'm not sure, you get 5 players, and then if that makes it an A+ draft from there. The players may turn out. The first 2 guys were great, no doubt about that. I did hear a little bit about the safety probably from Notre Dame, and of course, we've learned from Coach McGuire, any Sooner is going to be good. So,
Right.
But the players may be fine. Again, to get an A plus, they only had 5. So when I looked at that, that's why I didn't have them in there.
Okay, so my philosophy is 4 players who are going to play this year makes it an A plus draft, in my opinion. If you get 4, no matter how many picks you have, if you have 4 players that are going to play and have an impact on your team this year as rookies, I think it's an A plus draft, and I think those top 4 picks will do just that for Atlanta. And like I said, I think Nelson will in time as well. So I thought they hit on all 5 of the ones that they had. Let's talk about Cleveland, and then we'll get to your winners. Cleveland makes the decision to trade down from number 2 to number 5. And at first, I was kind of like, well, when it first happened, I wondered who Cleveland was going to take because that was going to play a big role in how I felt about it as well. We'll talk about Jacksonville later, but Mason Graham at number 5, top defensive tackle, a top 3 player in the draft by most people's boards. He's going to bulk up that defense, solidify the defense, which actually him and their 2nd round pick, Carson Schwessinger, really solidifies the Browns front 7 for this coming season. Then I love what they did at running back. Quinshon Judkins in the 2nd round, and then Dylan Sampson in the 4th round. It really gives them a 1-2 punch. They lose Nick Chubb. Well, I mean, he hasn't signed anywhere yet, but they lose Nick Chubb. They've got some talent in that running back room, but now they bring in 2 rookies that give you really that thunder and lightning mindset of one of them's going to pound and the other one has so much playmaking ability. I love that. Harold Fanta Jr. comes in the 3rd round. He will be probably their number 2 tight end this season, but he's going to play a lot, and he's going to eventually take over there for the starting tight end position. Then you go quarterbacks. Anytime you get some quarterbacks in your draft, I think it's positive. We come from the Green Bay Packer world where you pretty much draft a quarterback every year. Dylan Gabriel, he over his college career, the amount of yards he's thrown for is massively impressive. Then you throw in Shedeur Sanders and all that drama. Listen, I said it once the 4th round hit. It would make sense for any team to draft them. And Cleveland waited a while. Finally, in the 5th round, 6th pick in the 5th round, they take Sanders. And I think, Dad, we learned this from Aaron Rodgers. If you can tick off a quarterback enough, you have the potential to have some really good seasons. Jordan Love gets drafted. Aaron Rodgers goes on to play 2 of his best seasons of his career. Shedeur Sanders slides to the 5th round. Will he be good? We have no idea. But we know at the very least he's mad. So will that work out in Cleveland's favor? Will we see Gabriel or Sanders at all this year? I don't know that we will, but both of them seemingly are a good fit for Kevin Stefanski's offense. So when you put that into play and the fact that they don't have to play immediately, that there's Kenny Pickett and there's Joe Flacco there, this is going to be a really interesting preseason for Cleveland, if nothing else, at the quarterback position. But I loved all the other picks, not counting the quarterbacks. And I honestly don't hate the quarterbacks considering the value that they got them at as well. That's why I gave Cleveland an A+ in this draft as well.
Yeah, well, I think the trade was good in picking up picks. I think the quarterback situation is going to be a mess. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think picking 2 quarterbacks, picking one made sense. Of course, they took Gabriel and probably without knowing they were going to get Sanders. But to me, that's going to be just a wild situation to, try to work out from there. I guess in studying the draft, I missed out on the UCLA kid, Schwessinger. He wasn't one I was familiar with from there. Judkins from Ohio State has, potential. I think Henderson's probably better, but, may not be. And, of course, Dylan Sampson was great at Tennessee. Is he big enough? Depends on how they use him. As far as in the NFL. So I don't know. Now, Cleveland, did they get a pick next year too? That was correct, a first round pick?
Yeah.
So I think the trade was very good.
Yeah.
The idea of trading down. Did they do the best with the picks? I'm not so sure about that, but Graham's going to be great. Of course, they've already got a great pass rush, but you get a guy like him to go with it, that's going to be good. Was a little surprised probably they took him, but you can't go wrong with a guy like that. So we will see. I thought Cleveland's trade and getting the first round pick next year, that should serve them well in the future.
Yeah. Well, again, when I'm looking at, I need 4 players to contribute. I think they got 5 that'll contribute this year as rookies. And then the quarterbacks, who knows? Maybe they will. One of them will too. So we will see for sure. All right, Dad. Who is your winner or winners of the draft?
The other 2 teams that I had that I thought did real well, 3 actually, but 2. I had 3. One was Las Vegas. I felt like they really helped themselves with the players that they got there. So I had them doing well. Buffalo, I thought was good because they helped the defense all the way along the line, from the line to the middle to backfield. I thought they made a big difference in their defense there. I thought Houston may not be an A plus, but I thought they had a good draft from there and improved a lot. And it's hard to say about Jacksonville. We'll talk about them, but they got the player that can make a difference for them. That's for sure.
All right, so let's go through this. I had Houston above those other teams that you mentioned. So I had Atlanta, Cleveland, and New England as A plus teams. I had Houston as an A team. I gave them an A grade. Actually, them and 4 other teams that you haven't mentioned yet, I gave A grades to. So let's talk about Houston. Again, they trade out of the first round. Also, they move back, get the second pick of day 2. They get Jaden Higgins. I'm going to love this pick. Jaden has been on my show before, and I got to watch him play his freshman season in Eastern Kentucky. And I love Jaden Higgins, the size that he brings, what he does. He is he's a mean receiver, and he draws pass interferences more than anybody else. So he's 6'4", 214. He goes and gets it. Then in the third round, they get his teammate, Jalen Noel, from Iowa State also. He's 5'10", 194, a little bit of a spark plug receiver, great route runner. I thought that was a great pick as well. And then in the second round as well, pick 16, they got Ariante Ersuri, who was one of my favorite offensive linemen. I had him mocked in the first round at times throughout my 5 mock drafts, but ultimately I thought he was going to go in the second round. I love that Houston was not able to get, an offensive lineman in round 1. So they trade back and they get one in round 2. That's really, really, really good. After those 3 guys, though, Dad, the rest of the draft was questionable. That's why I didn't give them an A plus, because I felt like they got 3 guys that can contribute this year. And then we'll see about the other guys. Jalen Smith, the cornerback, they're going to need him to contribute. So hopefully he can. Woody Marks, the running back, I thought there were better running backs on the board than him. And then Jalen Reed, I don't know much about. I know a little bit, but not enough to really have an honest opinion on. Same with Keontae Hamilton and Luke Lachey. But Graham Mertz, quarterback, that doesn't, 6 rounds, so it doesn't matter. But he's not going to be your starting quarterback, hopefully ever. So, Dad, I did like Houston, especially at the top of their draft. First 2 days, I thought were really, really good picks overall for Houston. Then you said Buffalo. I gave Buffalo a B plus. I liked Buffalo's draft as well. Maxwell Harrison, the cornerback in round 1. TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle in round 2. I just thought it was a little high for him, which is why they did not get an A for me. Landon Jackson, good value for him at 3. Deion Walker, a good pick at 4 as well. I like Dorian Strong, the cornerback out of Virginia Tech in the 6th round, as a good pick as well. So I gave him a B plus, Dad. I wasn't quite in the A range with them because I thought they reached a little bit after round 1. But I thought they did a very good job overall bringing talent in. I do agree with you there. And then Vegas, Dad, I gave them a B plus also. So I liked these. I just didn't like them as good as some of the other teams. Genty is a playmaker at 6. I don't think you can go wrong there. Beck, good receiver. He reminds me of Well, he's white, so he stands out as you kind of assume a role for him a little bit. Obviously, a great college career and should do well for Vegas. Darian Porter, a good pick in the third round as well. I like Charles Grant, a late third round pick for them out of William and Mary, the tackle. I like Thornton, the receiver out of Tennessee as well. And then you've got some interesting picks with them later in the draft. Tommy Malo from Montana State played quarterback all through college, but is getting drafted as a wide receiver. And then Cam Miller, the quarterback out of North Dakota State. So a couple FCS guys that are, always intriguing to see what happens with those guys and how they come out. So, Dad, yeah, I like those. Anything you want to add to Houston, Buffalo, or Vegas?
No, like I said, I think, again, Vegas was another team like New England that needed a lot of players, and they were able to get a lot. And I think that will help them there. And they've got some guys that can play this year. So,
yeah, I agree. All right, let me give you my other A's and some just quick thoughts on these guys, and then you can add to it if you'd like to. New York Jets, Jets, Jets. I gave them an A grade as well. Membo, right tackle, solidifies their offensive line. Mason Taylor, I absolutely love him at tight end. They get him in the second round. A.Z. Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State, had slow 40 time, but a really good college career. I think that's a really solid pick as well. Malachi Moore, a fourth round pick. I like the safety out of Alabama. They also got a wide receiver, Arian Smith, out of Georgia. Linebacker, Francisco Muagoa. I'm not sure how to say that, in Miami. And another Miami player, Tyler Barron, the edge rusher also. But I just thought the top of their draft, their top three picks were so good. And they got good value there, too, with each of those picks. So I liked that. Pittsburgh, I gave an A to. Derek Harmon, Caleb Johnson, Jack Sawyer, Wyatt Black, and Will Howard. All decent picks in those first few. They also got Carson Bruner and Dante Kent. I thought they played it safe in the first round with Derek Harmon, and then I thought they hit a little bigger picks there. Third round, no second round pick. So to get a running back like Caleb Johnson is big for them in the third round. And then Jack Sawyer, who was not high on a lot of people's boards, although had a great college career at Ohio State. You get him in, he's your third edge rusher, maybe even your fourth edge rusher. That's pretty solid, in my opinion. And then we'll see what they want to do with Will Howard. Will they try to develop him, or is he a lifelong backup quarterback? We will see. My other A grades went to Seattle. I like Nick Emenwuri, who they got in the second round. I really like that pick a lot for Seattle. Of course, they went Gray Zabel in the first. Elijah Arroyo also in the second. That's massive for them. And then Jalen Milroe, I'm intrigued by it. We'll see what happens with it. He's got 2 years with Sam Darnold under contract. So they can, John Snyder, an old Packer guy, they can actually let Milroe train, prepare, and practice behind Sam Darnold for 2 years. And that can be their game plan. And if that's the game plan, then they get a quarterback in round 3 with an amazing athletic ability. I like their fifth round receiver, Torrey Horton out of Colorado. And then everything else was good, not great. So I gave them an A grade. And then Tampa, Dad, I didn't know what to make of Tampa at first. I love Emeka Egbuka. It was not a need pick, I didn't think, for Tampa, but I love it. And with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Evans is old. Godwin's always injured. I like McMillan. They drafted last year in the third round. They've got 4 receivers they can run through the whole season with. I love Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish in the second and third round with cornerbacks. David Walker, I've seen play multiple times out of Central Arkansas in person. Talented edge rusher. And then a couple other, Tez Johnson, the receiver out of Oregon, Elijah Roberts, the edge out of SMU. I thought Tampa really came out of the draft with a really solid core group of guys that they can grow with. Dad, any thoughts on Jets, Steelers, Seahawks, or Bucks?
Well, I think the Seahawks did, they got a lot of good players. So I think they helped themselves. I agree with that. Tampa, I'm not sure I agree. I mean, the wide receiver from Ohio State, we loved him and he's good. I don't think that was the main need they had. No. So, again, if he turns out to be good, I thought about that though. And it was kind of like Seattle a year ago, they had Metcalf and they had Lockett and, do they need the kid from Ohio State? Well, he's turned out to be the best of the bunch. So, and again, their receivers are getting older. So maybe that will help. I'm just not sure there wasn't other people there that could have helped them a little more. And then the other guys, we'll see how much they help from there. So,
all right, let's run through some other teams. You brought up Jacksonville earlier, so let's talk about them. I gave them a C+. It was not big on this draft for Jacksonville. I love the move for Travis Hunter. I thought it was a good move. It's going to sell tickets. It takes care of needs at wide receiver and cornerback potentially for Jacksonville. New coach, new regime, make a splash. I'm all for that. I think that was good. But after Travis Hunter, I just don't love it. They were drafted late in the third round. Caleb Renshaw, fine, not bad. He decent, all that good stuff. But you're talking about a late third round pick. What's he going to do for you this year? Wyatt Millum from West Virginia has potential at guard for sure. But after that, Dad, I just, Jack Kaiser, the linebacker at Notre Dame, good college career. I just didn't see enough for me after the Travis Hunter pick to make me go, yeah, they had a great draft. So I gave him a C+, which, hey, you still pass with a C+. C's get degrees. I just wasn't impressed with the after Travis Hunter in Jacksonville. I do love the Travis Hunter move.
Yeah, the question will be how big a difference does Travis Hunter make? Again, in some ways it's like drafting two players. He's going to play both ways. He won't play both ways every play, but he'll add a lot of excitement down there. So it's just how big a difference he makes when you look at this draft. Because again, they gave up a lot to get him. Again, if Trevor Lawrence gets healthy, this could be quite the thing. We know he has a lot of ability, and now you got a wide receiver like Hunter. So I think that was an interesting move. Did you think that was possible? I wasn't expecting that. So,
well, there was a lot of rumor that somebody was moving up to 2. So, I mean, going into the draft, there was a possibility. I didn't know who, or for even what. I assumed it would be for Travis Hunter if you're going up to 2, because that's where everybody thought he was going to Cleveland. So, I can't say I expected Jacksonville to do that, but like I said, I thought it was good. Let's talk about Green Bay, Dad. And this is not a Packer podcast, so let's try to keep it contained as best as we can. I'll start off with this. I was wrong. We talked about it on the air and off the air. I said, there's no way the Packers are drafting a wide receiver at 1. They did. They took Matthew Golden. He was my number 1 receiver on my big board. I didn't love it at the time. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. After the draft gets done, with also picking up Savion Williams, I liked it more because Savion Williams is more of what I thought the Packers needed than what Matthew Golden gives. Pair them together. Now you're talking about probably moving on from somebody, Christian Watson or somebody else. Overall, fine. I gave the Packers a B. I like Anthony Belton. I wanted him in the 3rd round, so a little higher than I was hoping to get him. But I like him. And then Baron Sorrell, the edge rusher out of Texas. I don't expect him to be a superstar. Hopefully he can come in and, be productive. And we've had backups be pretty productive in Green Bay at the edge rusher position. So I believe he can come in and fill a role there as well. The rest of the draft, Colin Oliver, Warren Brinson, Micah Robinson, and John Williams, none of those get me super excited about anything. Savion Williams is going to be a threat on the field. They're going to use him well, I think. He's going to fit what LaFleur does very, very well. And Matthew Golden is clearly talented. Again, it wasn't the biggest need, in my opinion, but what they did is they said, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to get 2 just playmakers, and we're going to figure it out. So at the end of the day, I give the Packers a B overall because, again, 5th, 6th, and 7th round, I'm not sure what we got there. But I like the overall Green Bay Packers draft.
Again, I think it was good. I think there's a lot to be optimistic. I think the two receivers do give Coach LaFleur a chance to really even open the offense up more. That will help there. I think you can always strengthen the offensive line. I think Belton is really good and will be really good. Will he start this year? I don't know. It'll depend on where he fits in and how some other guys do. But he was highly regarded, and I think that will be good there. Their other picks may not. The guy that probably could make a difference, I know they're counting on, is the 6th round pick, the defensive lineman, because they've got to replace T.J. Slayton, and I think he'll have a chance. Again, you're talking about another lineman from Georgia. I think he'll have a shot, no doubt about it. And they also got an undrafted free agent from Georgia that's a nose tackle also. So they may be able to get some help there. We'll see again how Sorrell does as far as rushing. I think, with him and the kid from Oklahoma State, really will help special teams. A lot of speed, a lot of strength there. So that's not bad from that standpoint. So we'll see how it goes. But I thought it was a good draft, no doubt about it.
All right, let's do some quick hitters real quick before we head off. Carolina. Ted McMillan goes number 8 overall. They get Skirton and Umenmelean Princely from Ole Miss. Trevor Etienne, the running back out of Georgia. I gave him a C. What did I give him? A C, C plus. I didn't like Ted McMillan at 8, Dad, but I could be wrong on Ted McMillan. Like I said, Golden was my number 1 receiver. So I thought it was way too high for Ted McMillan. But your just quick reaction thoughts on Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think McMillan was a good pick. They needed bodies. I think they got some help, but I don't think it's a draft that's going to, obviously turn them around, but I don't think it hurts. So,
Arizona Cardinals, riskiest picks of the draft. Talented guys, but a lot of risk. Walter Nolan at 16 has some off the field issues. Will Johnson at 2nd round, incredible value for him, but he has some health issues. I had him mocked to the Cardinals, by the way, in the 1st round. So do I get some points for that? I'm not sure. Jordan Birch in the 3rd round from Oregon. I like that pick as well. A little one-dimensional, some think, as well. So to me, I like the talent Arizona got, but I thought it was the riskiest picks of all the draft.
Yeah, I can see where you're saying that. And of course, anytime you're talking about risky picks, that can go either way. Johnson gets healthy and
right.
Nolan doesn't cause any problems, man, they might be a great draft. But yeah, you're right. It was risky, and Arizona may not be a team that can take that risk, but we'll see.
I liked Indianapolis's draft. Tyler Warren falls to him at 14. Incredible. They get the best edge rusher out of Ohio State and JT Tuimoloau. Said that wrong. And then I like their 5th round pick, DJ Giddens, the running back out of Kansas State also. So I thought I liked him. I gave him a B plus, but I really liked what Indianapolis did.
Yeah, again, I like that they got that tight end, and that should be a help to them. If they can get things straightened out at quarterback, they could be good.
The Saints, I wanted to dog the Saints. I wanted to give them a low grade, but the more I looked at their roster, the more I looked at their draft, I thought, no, they actually did pretty solid. I gave them a B plus. Kelvin Banks at 9, maybe a slight reach. We will see. Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round. I'm not sold on him as of yet, but it's obviously the guy they wanted. Then I really like their 2nd third round pick, safety Jonas Sanker out of Virginia. I like Stutzman, the linebacker in the 4th round they got as well. And Devin Neal, the running back out of Kansas in the 6th round, along with all their other picks, Dad. I really thought New Orleans ultimately did good. Tyler Shuck will be the big question mark there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Banks, that was a good pick, no doubt. The other players, it's like any team, we'll see how they develop. I was really surprised about that quarterback. We haven't got a chance to talk about it. I was going to ask you about it since you know a little more about him there, probably being in Kentucky. But we'll see. I don't think it was terrible, but we'll see how it goes.
All right. I thought Chicago, Dallas, New York Giants, San Francisco, Tennessee, Washington. Thought they all did good. I didn't think it was great, but I thought they did good. Dallas, if it wasn't Tyler Booker at 12, I would have given them a higher grade. I thought it was a reach. But they got Ezeraku in the second round. They got Revel in the third round. Jaden Blue in the fifth round. So I thought that was a good one. Chicago, again, another team that didn't really go with their biggest need to start things off, but they got Colson Loveland, a playmaker. They got Luther Burden in the second round. That's a really good pick. But then after that, I don't know. I don't love Trapillo. I don't love Shamar Turner as much as some other people do. Again, I thought it was a decent draft for Chicago. San Francisco got Michael Williams. I thought was good. Tennessee, obviously getting their quarterback, did some good things as well. And Washington, while I thought they could have done better, Washington getting offensive lineman, one of the top corners in the second round, and a good receiver in the fourth round, I thought was decent too. So, Dad, any other teams you want to bring up or talk about?
Well, I've seen some people really high on the Giants draft. And you mentioned them kind of in with that group. It seems like at least they're for, it depends on how Jackson Dart does.
Yes.
But, they seem like they got some good players, at least with the first three picks there. The Giants have a lot of needs, and is it enough to save the coach? I don't know about all that. But, we'll see what Carter does. And, yeah, I'd read a little bit about the tackle from Toledo. I think he's good. So, what would some people I've seen were real high on the talent they got.
So for me, I thought they did the right thing at 3. Getting Abdul Carter at 3 was the right move, the correct move for them to do. So I applaud them for that. Jackson Dart, it's going to be, wait and see. Anytime you're talking about quarterbacks, overall, it's wait and see on it. So it's hard for me to grade on that one. They went with the guy they wanted, and so you got to give them that. Kind of like Tyler Shuck, they got the guy they wanted. You're right. Darius Alexander, the tackle from Toledo, is very good. And Cam Scatterbo, the running back at Arizona State, I thought was a really good pick as well, getting the value there in the fourth round. Embo from Purdue, the guard, he actually has some potential too. So I thought it was a good draft. I gave him the B as opposed to a B plus, just because we're going to have to wait and see on some of this. And we have to wait and see on all of it, but quarterback stuff gets me a little scared. And they didn't have a lot of high draft picks because of that move back up to get the quarterback. Kind of gave away some of the rest of their draft, but I thought they did good overall for sure.
Yeah, no, it looked like it was pretty good there. You got to try to be not biased where we're from, but Minnesota, I had to scratch my head a little bit on that one. They took the guard, and he may be real good at Ohio State. They got a real good guy in the third round, but do they need a wide receiver?
Yeah.
I mean, is that really? I mean, he's really fast, so that may help, but it's going to add. But I'm just not sure. Again, they didn't have many picks to start with, so I'm not sure if the draft turned them around.
Yeah, I gave him a C plus on my grades. I like Donovan Jackson a lot. He gives versatility. Again, a little high, but I like him. Ty Felton, good receiver out of Maryland. You're talking about value at that point for sure, and you need more than 2 receivers because what happens if one gets hurt? So I think that's a good pick. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, the Georgia edge, 5th round. Kobe King, 6th round linebacker. Gavin Bartholomew, 6th round tight end. So not a lot of opportunity for Minnesota this year because of where they were picking. And I'm not sure they took full advantage of it either. I gave him a C plus in this pick because I really do like Donovan Jackson a lot. So I just thought it was a little high for him. All right. Anybody else you want to mention?
No, like I said, I think overall people seem to have good drafts. And, we'll see where it goes. They're starting now, the OTAs. Some teams have already been doing that. Packers are just getting back into it since they hosted the draft. Again, I think the draft at Green Bay was a great success, probably better than I even thought there. I really enjoyed the draft. It started out with the highlight of the draft for me, which was Clay Matthews, and it just kept getting better from there. So,
well, Dad, you just hurt my feelings because your son did the voiceover for the Belly Up intro, Belly Up Sports Draft Show intro. I thought that's where you were going with the highlight of your night, but that's okay. Clay Matthews, text message from the president was a worthy opponent for me there at the top of the draft. So I appreciate that. I'll be writing. I've already started the writing of these articles. I'll do an AFC draft grades article and an NFC draft grades article. So if we didn't talk about your team, go check out Belly Up Sports later this week, and I'll have some more information about each team on those articles. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove is where you can catch us on Twitter and Instagram, and check out righteousfelon.com. If you haven't ordered jerky yet, you need to. I'm telling you, you're missing out. Great stuff, well priced. Check it out, righteousfelon.com. You get a 15% discount when you use the promo code STOVE15. That's STOVE15. All right, me and Dad plan to be back next week with more football talk. We got plenty of things to discuss now heading in to the off-season workouts and everything that goes along with it. I'm sure we'll have some signings, some trades possibly as well, as people like Jalen Ramsey and Jair Alexander are looking for other teams, and maybe even some quarterback movement. We will see where it all shakes down as well. We sure appreciate you tuning in to tonight's edition of the Sports Stove Football Show. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.